Hello everyone and welcome back to my video. Today it's tier list time and I'm going to be doing a tier list for the best 1v1 civilizations, and we're going to be covering land maps today. So I've done a tier list for only Arabia, I've done a tier list for all maps. Right now I'm going to be covering land maps, and that's going to be like open land maps like Arabia, Land Madness. Then we also have maps like Gold Rush, and we also have maps like Arena and Red Fortress. So like those very common land maps. I'm going to be covering them all in this video. And basically, if a civilization is good on open land maps, it scores pretty high. But if it's good on arena and some of the other maps, it gets a little bit of a bonus and helps to kind of climb my list here. And I will obviously explain my choices and tell you where these civilizations are good and yeah, what to look out for. So it's been a while since the new DLC has been posted, so I'm quite familiar with the new civilizations, as well as there was a big patch that came in, and I've gotten kind of familiar with some of the changes there. So it's a good time for a tier list here, and let's hop right into it. Before we get started, I got this idea to make a tier list from a guy in my Discord. He sent me a link. He said, yo, it's a good time to make a tier list, and this is a link with the 4 new civilizations included. I said, yo, that's a good idea. I'm gonna do it. So just a reminder that I'm really taking your feedback and your requests as far as what videos to make, and I'm really trying to take it seriously to make good content that's not just gameplay spam on my YouTube anymore. So yeah, just a reminder to join my Twitch and join my Discord, links in the description below, because it really helps me to hear your ideas. And obviously there's Twitch for the live games, and there's Discord for a nice community to hang out. And of course there's the comment section below that you guys can drop your feedback and also requests. So yeah, just feel free to use it. It helps me out a lot, and I think it creates a nice connection there. And makes me make the right videos. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Stop selling out, Hera. We got Aztecs. So we're going to start from left to right and just go through it here, talk about the civilizations. Now, Aztecs, really strong on a lot of different land maps. They're actually almost never bad. They're great on Arena, great on those Gold Rush, Golden Pit maps. They're also good on Arabia and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put them at A tier. The reason why I'm not putting them S tier, and Aztecs used to be kind of an S tier civilization, is because I feel like these days men-at-arms have kind of fallen out of meta for some of those open maps like Arabia and stuff. Nothing really happened to men-at-arms. It's just that I feel like people actually got better at defending men-at-arm rushes, and they're no longer very good. It's that straight archer opening, that 19 pop range or that 20 pop range, that completely shuts down the strategy of going men-at-arms. So yeah, not a huge fan of Aztecs these days for that reason, although I still recognize that they're a top tier civ, and if played correctly, very, very solid. Next up, we've got the Bengalis. Now, Bengali is a weird civilization because I feel like it's really bad in the situations where it's pressured fast and you have to react quickly. It doesn't really have time to take advantage of its eco bonus, but it does have one thing going for it, and it's that unique unit. I actually lost the game to Doubt, and it was Red Fortress. I was playing Chinese, considered one of the best civilizations on that map. He played the Bengalis, and I couldn't beat the Rathas. Granted, I had a brain fart and didn't go skirmishers, even though I made a video about it. But nonetheless, the Ratha was quite solid. Like it surprised me how strong it was. So, but Bengalis combined with a decent eco and a good unique unit, I think it could be a C or B tier civ for land maps. Better on closed maps because you have that unique unit, and weaker on open maps where it's a bit more fast paced. I would probably put them really low B tier. Low B tier for now. But maybe high C tier, we'll see. I think Bengali is not bad, and it's probably one of the better new civs, believe it or not. Alright, next up is the Berbers. Now, Berbers is a perfect example of a B tier civ. It's going to be in front of the Bengali here. It's a perfect example of a B tier civ because it has some bonuses going for it. It has some good options in the tech tree, but it's not the most flexible, and it doesn't have the most straightforward gameplay. However, in the right situations, it's actually quite powerful, and those situations are going for a lot of knights or a lot of camel archers. So definitely a solid civ overall, B tier for me. Next up, we've got the Bohemians. Now, Bohemians are also going to find themselves in the B tier. However, we'll leave a quick note with the Bohemians. They're insanely strong on arena, like S tier arena, and really good on those maps where you can boom up and use their monks that are incredibly strong. And they also have amazing bonuses in terms of developing into that late game, chemistry in Castle Age, amazing economy, great late game with Halb Hoofnies. The Hussite wagons are like not bad, you can mix those in. So Bohemians are really strong late game powerhouse. I'm going to put them in B tier, probably in front of the Berbers, just because I feel like Berbers are like never really the best on any map. Maybe Gold Rush is like the closest that they'll get to being the best, but Bohemians is like it's talked about being like the best on arena, or like top 3 in arena. So I'm gonna put it up there in B tier. Next up, we've got the Britons. I can't name a single land map where I wouldn't be happy playing Britons. This civilization is crazy. On Golden Pit, it's one of the best. Even Red Asset Fortress, it's passable, to be honest. It only loses because other civs just, beat it, but, the top civs, but it's still passable in Red Asset Fortress. Amazing on Arena, amazing on Arabia. There's really not a land map that I wouldn't want to play Britain, so I'm going to put it in A tier above Aztecs. Not quite S tier because the S tier civilizations are pretty crazy, but yeah, Britain's is definitely up there. Next up, we've got the Bulgarians. Now, Bulgarians it's probably one of those civs that it's not bad. It's not bad against some civs, and it's really bad against other civs. As you guys know, in Hidden Cup 4, I used it to counterpick Aztecs, but I was really scared of something like Tatars or something like Huns on Arabia that would completely destroy the civilization. So for me, it's probably going to be a low B tier civ, but I'm probably going to put it above Bengali just because I feel like there's more situation where I'd want Bulgarians than Bengali. Next up, we've got the Burgundians. Now, Burgundians is a civilization that, in my opinion, it probably has one of the best economies if you leave it untouched on a standard setting situation. And the fact that the Flemish Revolution is still in the game gives it such an insane... By the way, I'm not... I think we should remove it, but there's a lot of people that seem to think that it's a good idea to keep Flemish Revolution, and they like the uniqueness, by the way. So I don't mean to impose my opinion. If you guys think that Flemish Revolution is fine for the game, by all means, no problem. But yeah, I just want to get that out of the way. So Burgundians, for me, it's one of the most insane economy civilizations if you can go untouched in the early game. And their Castle Age and Imperial Age is really, really strong. Like I said, especially that Flemish Revolution option makes your Imperial Age insanely good on maps like Arena, for example. I'm honestly going to put Burgundians really high up in A tier. I just don't know exactly where, compared to Britons, but I would probably say they're above Aztecs at the moment overall for land maps. Gonna probably put them in between Britons and Aztecs, although it kind of feels wrong. I feel like Aztec might be better though. This is a hard one. Hard choice. Maybe Aztecs better, but I prefer Burgundians. I'm gonna put them behind Aztecs. Yeah, just because I feel like Aztecs have slightly better matchups overall. Yeah, Burgundians there. I'm happy with that. Next up is Burmese, and Burmese got a few changes, by the way. They now have that tech that makes their cavalry do more damage to archers, which is pretty cool. Although it is an Imperial Age tech, so it's kind of sketch. Their elephants are pretty solid though. I think Burmese has to be a pretty low C tier for land maps. I can see them being good on Arena as their best map, but even on Arena they're not the top civ, so feels like a C tier is solid for them overall. They're pretty bad on Arabia. They died to so many archer civs, and like I said, their main goal is Men at Arm Rush, but people are really good into Men at Arm Rush these days. So yeah, C tier for Burmese. Next up, we got Byzantine. Now, Byzantine is a civ that, in my opinion, it has it's so consistent. You can always play Byzantine, and you're never gonna have a game where you're like, oh my god, my civ is useless here. It's always gonna feel somewhat useful. It's often not the most powerful civilization, but it's always decent. It's always okay. It's always good. So I'm probably gonna put it pretty high up in B tier. I think probably above Bohemians or behind Bohemians makes sense. I'm debating between these two spots. Has pretty good matchups across the board. It really doesn't have any terrible matchups. I'm gonna put it in high B tier. The worst thing for Byzantine is playing those maps where you can't wall, Land Madness. But any other land map, even Gold Rush, it does pretty fine. Arena, it does fine. Red Asset Fortress, I can see it doing fine as a counter pick. It's just a good civilization overall, in my opinion. And of course, those are not the only land maps. I'm just kind of jogging my brain with some common land maps. Next up, we've got the Celts. Now, the Celts, if you ask Huang, it's an S tier civ. If you ask, Mysterio MBL, they might put it in A tier. I personally hate playing the civ. It's my worst civilization, or one of my worst civilizations. But I still have to put some respect on the civ because it has some good things going for it. But I think if you play Celts, you need to make use of their siege push and castle age. You don't have to Huang rush. You don't have to go all in. But some sort of siege push and castle age, either from home or a forward siege workshop, just has to come down. It's the only part of the civ that I feel is truly strong. I'm probably gonna put it in C tier above Burmese, but maybe in late B. Yeah, maybe in late B. I think. Yeah, late B makes sense. Probably below Bengali, just because Bengali is pretty solid on Red Asset Fortress, and I can see it being good in some other situations. Whereas Celt, I feel is never really the best civ at all. It's just a playstyle thing. Above Bengali, fine, like this. Just because Bengali is lacking a lot. Next up is Chinese, and that's my first S tier civ. I don't have to think about it too much, guys. This is the best civilization on Arabia according to many pro players. Insane on Red Asset Fortress, passable on Arena, good on Land Madness, one of the best on Land Madness, in fact. Pretty good on any land map I can think of. It's pretty solid. You can't really go wrong with the civilization. If anything, it's going to be banned out in tournaments, or you want to save it for another time. If you're looking for a civ for 1v1 Arabia, guys, highly recommend you pick up the Chinese. It's also really flexible, so you can like play a lot of different styles in this one civilization. And the Chinese start is really not that hard, by the way. Like, don't be scared of that. If you're in like anything above like a very beginner, just like Chinese will be fine for you. Next up, we've got the Cumans. I'm really proud of myself, by the way. I've nailed all the icons, by the way. If I do all of them, you guys gotta like the video, please. Give me some reward, man. Next up, we've got the Cumans. Cumans are an interesting one. Yeah, they got a lot of bonuses recently. They have the 2TC boom that's always been decent. The bonuses to make their stable and archery range cheaper feels really smooth to me, by the way. I'm a big fan of Cumans, actually, these days. I understand they have some weakness, but like Kipchak is also really good. I'm not going to say they're an A-tier civilization, but I can see them easily being a B-tier civilization, and I would probably enjoy them after Berbers, but I can easily see an argument for them to be before Berbers and maybe even before Bohemians. Oh, what is happening? Oh no, how did it look like? I think it was like this. I'm going to put them here. Yeah, that should be a pretty good spot for them. Next up, we've got the Dravidians. Now, Dravidians are an interesting civilization, and I think they're one of the better of the new civs, but their stable is so abysmal, bro. They have like nothing in the stable, and I hate that. I can't really think, like, this is a water civilization. Like, it has most of its bonuses on water. I would say it's like the only option you have is to make use of the men at arm rush and the free wood and feudal and like early castle to maybe get like a good archer rush into a decent boom, and then you play like, you know, Arbalest Skirm, and then you have the Urumi Swordsman or Elephants long term. No, the Elephants suck, actually. Never mind. Just Urumi Swordsman, basically. Or Halberdier transition. It just feels like such an exploitable civ, guys. It has no cavalry, and it's so weak in that department. I think it has to be a C-tier civ. Debating between Burmese or not. Probably, I think it's probably above Burmese. Like, yeah, probably above Burmese. But this civ has some clear weaknesses. Like, absolutely insane weaknesses that will be exploited. Similar to Burmese, so its C categories make sense to me. Next up is Ethiopians. Ethiopians, I would say, is actually quite a strong civilization. I think they're A tier. I would probably say bottom of A tier makes sense to me. The more and more I think about Ethiopians, the more I think that they're actually really good in the right hands. And I think they're pretty good on Arena, pretty good on, like, you know, Arabia, pretty good on a lot of these different maps. And I feel like Ethiopians have weaknesses, but they're not as easy to exploit as some of the other civilizations we've talked about. So they seem like a bottom of A tier kind of civ. Next up, we've got the Franks. Oh man, the Franks. I think this is either top of A tier or bottom of S tier civ for land maps in general. But I think if we're talking 1v1, guys, it's going to have to fall somewhere in A tier. I would probably put them behind Britons, but ahead of Aztecs. Like, I think the civilization is actually really good. And it's really easy to play, by the way. So if you guys want a cavalry civ that's straight and smooth and and pretty, you know, straightforward and pretty solid, that's what I meant to say. Franks is a good option. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with right behind Britons. Like, it performs well on a lot of different maps, guys. The cavalry is super solid. You know, it has a lot of different options that you can go for as well, because it has like a smooth economy in general. And then late game, like, you're kind of limited in late game, to be honest. It's definitely the weakness of Franks, but you have a pretty passable late game, I would say. Next up, we have the Goths, and the Goths, I actually feel like the more I play with the Goths, the more I feel like they're actually okay. They're hard to play, I think, if you want to play them correctly. Like, at low level, I think they're really easy to play because people give you time. You just like get to Huskrow spam, and like it's Huskrow Halb or Huskrow Champion's like impossible to stop for a lot of players. High level, they try to pressure you a lot, but I think Goth starting with extra Vil, having a smooth Dark Age because they get the Loom instantly, it makes them actually okay. On all land maps, like I can see Goths being pretty good on some of those like on hideout and stuff like that. I can see them being okay there if they have some time to like boom and set up. Probably top of C tier. Yeah, I think they're better than Dravidians just because they have an identity. Like, they have some really easy win condition, whereas Dravidians late game are like, it's not really clear where you win with Dravidians. They don't have any clear power spike, whereas Goths clearly have a win condition, which is mid and late game Huskrow spam or infantry spam. And they both have a decent early game with the infantry. So yeah, I put Goths around here. That makes sense to me. Next up is the Gurjara. Let me just make sure that's the case. Oh, I want to like, but I want to be correct. It's the Gurjara. I was right. I'm taking the point. Next up is Hindustani. I got them mixed up. Yeah, Gurjara. It's a civilization that has no knights. It has the shawarma riders. And I don't think they're very good. I think they're actually very bad. But I think Gurjara actually has really good camels. I'm going to put them bottom of B tier above the Bengali. Just because I feel like Skirm Camel for them is actually kind of decent. Skirm Camel for Gurjara feels pretty good. The bonus damage with the camels and the armored elephants and the light cav feels like a pretty good mix of bonuses. I like that. And I think the Civ has Hussar. Like, this is a Civ with Hussar, right? I like. So yeah, Gurjara probably, yeah, B tier. I can't go higher because it's not the bonuses it has is not very insane. Like, even the start with like the sheep in the mill, it doesn't give you that much food. Like, it's a decent early game bonus, but it's not like insane early game bonus. So yeah, it's a B tier civ. It's like a very average civilization, bottom of B tier even. Hindustani. Now, Hindustani, I haven't had too much testing, but I have a theory it's going to be an insane 1v1 civilization. Probably, I said top 10, maybe top 5. I actually think it's really good on a variety of maps here, guys. If we're talking Arabia only, it's probably in the top 5. But if we're talking all land maps, it actually, it might be around the same, to be honest. I think Hindustan is an insane civilization to counter cavalry civs. And against archer civs, it's fine going skirmishers and just booming up with a good economy. And its late game is insanely strong. So yeah, I think Hindustani is like insane versus cav civs and like decent against archer civs. So I would, I'm gonna put them right here, above Burgundians, just because I feel like Hindustani is much more well-rounded than Burgundians are, but probably below Aztecs, Franks, and Britons here. Next up, we've got the Huns. Huns is probably going to be right away top of B tier. I have trouble putting Huns any further, just because no houses means it's harder to wall. And the units that Huns go for, like cav archers and like knights and stuff, sometimes it dies to like really strong explosives. So I think that's the one weakness of knights of Huns. Sorry, you're just dying to like really strong explosives in some cases. And I actually feel like that struggle to wall early can be a little bit annoying. And they're really not the best on like closed maps because their late game isn't fantastic. So yeah, just a B tier civ for Huns makes sense. Solid overall, but not insane. Next up, we've got the Incas. Incas feels like a civ that has like decent matchup across the board. It's looking like another B tier civ, to be honest. I just don't know exactly where. It might be more solid than Berbers overall, but Berbers is more powerful. Like, where Berbers is good, it's better than Incas. Like, Incas doesn't have any like place where it's insane. It's just like decent. I'll probably even put it behind Cumans because I feel like Cumans, you at least have that 2TC boom that's very unique. Incas have very little, like, there's no reason why I'd want to pick Incas over another civilization on any map if I have a choice of one civ only. Does that make sense? That's why, and I think that's the problem with the identity of the civ. But I will say it's very well rounded, has a lot of options. The Kamyuk is pretty cool too. Slinger's solid. It's a good civ. I actually really like it, by the way. But like I said, I never think of like, oh, I need to pick this civ in my draft. Next up, we have Italians, and Italians are actually underrated on land maps. I think they're actually quite good. I'm gonna put them above Bulgarians as well, and probably above Incas is a bit of a stretch maybe. They have Hussar above Incas, whatever. It's the Hera bias. But no, in all seriousness, Italians have good power spikes, man. They have a good power spike in all ages because they save a little bit of resources. They have a really nice tech tree. Bombard cannons for cheaper, hand cannoneer for cheaper. They have the condottiero option. They have fully upgraded Hussar Cavalier. They have fully upgraded Arbalest with extra armor. They have Genoese crossbow options. Like, they have insane options and decent power spikes across the board. I think they're B tier civ for me. Super solid. Next up, we've got the Japanese. Man, this might be another B tier civ, honestly. Yeah, it has to just be another B tier civ, honestly. I just said the same thing twice. Sheesh. Okay, we're gonna put it. I'm gonna put it right below. I'm actually gonna put it above Cumans, to be honest, because I think Japanese has some really good early power. That's hard to stop. Like, Japanese is one of those only. It's one of the only civs I feel that can do damage with men at arms, and that can actually, like, Japanese and Celts. Those are like the two civilizations that I can do damage with men at arms because of like how strong they are at like breaking buildings and breaking walls, and the follow up with the range is really smooth with all that wood you save. So The big weakness of Japanese and what prevents them from being higher up on the list is their late game is really bad compared to a lot of civilizations. You're missing bombard cannons and you're missing really good cavs. So, you know, in certain civ matchups, like against Franks, Japanese can be insane because they have really good arbalest halb choices, good early game too. Against Britons, you have literally nothing. Like you have towers and skirmishers. That's it. You got nothing else. So that's what I think about Japanese. Next up, we got the Khmer, and that's going to be a bottom of A tier civ, probably right behind Burgundians and above Ethiopians. I think Khmer are super solid. They have actually a lot of options, by the way. You don't just go like knights with the civ. You can go easily double range archer opening. You can go like, you know, one range. You can go just like straight fast castle, really fast on those maps like Hideout, and they're really good at that. So Khmer has a lot of options and a lot of flexibility. It has a good early game, good late game. And guys, the Ballista Elephant just got buffed by 2 attack. That shit is crazy. So definitely, I think Khmer, especially with Ballista Elephant, it's not a meme unit anymore. It's really good if you get there. And I'm pretty confident saying that. So Khmer, watch out for the Civ. Amazing late game. Really good early game and yeah, really smooth mid game. And I think the hiding in houses is one of the most... is one of the best quality of life bonuses in the game. I can't think of another one that's better, actually. So yeah, Khmer are top tier. Next up, we got the Koreans, and I think Koreans might be a top of C tier civ. Like, they're really good at what they do, but they're very limited. Maybe nah, let's put them in B tier. Everything's going in B tier, but I swear it's like kind of, I need to, man, I need to. I'll probably put them above gurjaras. Maybe above Celts too. Yeah, maybe above Celts. That makes sense. I wouldn't want them over Bulgarians in most cases, but Koreans, I mean, they have decent things going for them. They have like really nice siege and archer play, and their war wagons are pretty good. But I think that they, yeah, they don't really have a lot of options besides their like archer lines, archer and siege, and you know, it's a civ that feels underwhelming to play. Let's put it at that. Their eco bonus isn't very insane either, so. Let's leave them there. Next up, we got Lithuanians. Lithuanians is a civilization that I used to think was like top tier, but the more I play it, the more I feel like it's pretty like not mediocre, but it's pretty like manageable. I would say right behind Huns is a good place for Lithuanians, but they are really good on relic maps. So on maps like graveyards, Lithuanians are actually very good. So keep that in mind. That's like their one big strength. Arena, they're pretty good too. But I think I'm pretty happy with like a B tier, maybe above Huns. I would say maybe above Huns for Lithuanians, but they're really not that insane in my opinion. The more I play with them, the more I feel like they're pretty mediocre. They also got slight changes recently that I think were not the most favorable with the winged hussar stuff. Because like now you have weaker paladins, so like that before that was like your big play, right? Your paladins are just insane, but now you have to go lightest if you want to have like heavy cav, and they're really not the same as archers. And winged hussar are pretty good, but you're lacking... Yeah, you're not lacking too much there. Yeah, the winged hussar is pretty good. Yeah, I think B tier makes sense, though. Next up, we've got the Magyars. Magyars, I can sum them up very easily. They have good early game, terrible mid game, amazing late game. So it's really just about surviving that mid game that's not really the best for the civ. But I think it's an okay civ. It's really good on maps like Haboob, Land Madness, that kind of stuff. We say it a lot in Empire Wars because it skips their early game and it goes straight into like their feudal, which is like where they're strongest at. Magyars, I'm gonna put them. I think that you probably want Berbers in most cases, and Japanese feels better than Magyars in most cases too. I'd even prefer Cumans and Italians over Magyars, maybe even Incas. I probably put them slightly above Bulgarians overall, but I think Bulgarians have some matchups that are better for Bulgarians than Magyars. So yeah, I'll put them there for now. Makes sense to me. This civ is Malay, and Malay is one of those civilizations that I think is actually quite good, but I know a lot of other people won't share that opinion. I personally think Malay is like super decent. I'd probably put them above Bulgarians, maybe behind Bulgarians. Above Koreans makes sense. Their economy is actually really good. You just have to play a slow-paced game. Really good on arena as well when you can get that boom in. I know it's usually a water civ, but it's actually decent on land. And the cheap elephants, my god, are the cheap elephants actually pretty good. Guys, I think Malay going like crossbow opening or like any archer opening, like maybe Josh Archers or like Josh FC or like, no, Josh FC is not the best, but like Josh Archers or like straight archers. And then like you play one or two stable elephants with your crossbows. It's pretty insane and really hard to stop, so... Yeah, I think Malay is pretty up there. Next up, we've got the Malians. It's just such a mediocre civ these days, honestly. I'm going to put it behind Malay right here. Yeah, just right behind Malay. Malians is like okay at everything, not crazy at anything in particular. And the longer lasting gold sounds nice on paper, but the late game isn't very good and not very gold reliant. So I don't really see that bonus is really weird for the civ. So I personally think that Malians is a civ that's not very scary and easy to manage, I think, in some cases. But it does have like one big power spike in Castlage that can be tricky. So keep that in mind. Next up is the Mayans. Ooh, the Mayans is an interesting one. I'll probably put them above Ethiopians just because they have that deadly ego transition that could be insane. And Ethiopians don't really have that option. They have like Shotel Warriors, but that's more like a niche unit. The Eagle Warrior is like just insane versus a lot of things. And Mayans are overall like a pretty good archer skirm civ. The unique tech for the skirms to shoot 2 javelins is also quite good against siege rams, especially in trebuchets late game. I'm gonna put Mayans right there. It makes sense. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Nothing really much to say about the civ. It's good again. It's good on like all maps pretty much for land. Next up we got Mongols. Wow. And this is even put at bottom of A tier. I know right away I want to hear because I think in the situations where Mongols are good, they're like insane. But in the situations where they're bad, there's very little. Like I don't think there's a situation where Mongols is bad. Like you're always gonna have an early game attacker's chance because you always are going to be up faster. You have the potential to lame your opponent's boar, and then you're just so far ahead. You can lure deer and get a really good start. Maggots are like insane. Their late game is like really good. And then their mid game is their only weakness. But with a good early game, you usually can be far ahead to just like cruise the mid game and then find a way to win. But yeah, I think that Mongols are like quite solid, and you can't really have a bad game with them in my opinion. It's really hard to have a bad game. So Mongols are up there for sure. This is the Persians now. We got Persians. I think Persians might be top of C tier. Yeah, I think top of C tier. Maybe bottom of B tier actually. Yeah, maybe bottom of B tier. I think I'd rather them over gurjaras, but I'm not sure. No, I think gurjaras are probably better honestly because they have more like special things. Like the thing about Persians is that guys, they can be really good when they're like when they have a perfect game, right? I'm actually gonna put them above Celts. Like this is fine for in B tier. I might move some civs around later, but basically like Persians are really good in situations where they can play their game and they can like be undisturbed, like booming at home or like 1TC and like all in. They're pretty good in those situations, but as soon as the game becomes like, oh, Persians are on the back foot, man, they have very little units to bail them out. Like they have nothing special. There's no spike. There's no spike for the civilization. It's so like the power spike level is so flat. Like you have nothing going for you. There's no place where I'm like, oh, Persians is insane here. Watch out for that. So yeah, I'm gonna put them at B tier. They're really good if you're untouched or like a smooth game, but as soon as the game gets like hilly and rocky, they just feel so exploitable. So yeah, B tier for me on Persians. Next up, we got the Poles. I'm gonna put Poles bottom of A tier, right behind Mongols. I think Poles are actually a really good civilization. The full work is insane, really good bonus to get like extra food in the early game and even in the late game. Winged Hussars with trample damage are really good in late game. The Knights, the all-in Knights play in Castlage with unique tech is niche. It doesn't come up all the time, but when it comes up, it's pretty good. And I think that their Knight play in Castle in general is like solid. But the reason why I think Poles are good, like above all, is the fact that they can mine stone and get gold. Like that bonus is absolutely ridiculous. One of the best eco bonuses in the game, in my opinion, practically speaking. Don't do the math on it. Practically speaking, if you're mining stone and also getting a bit of gold and you can castle up your opponent while having a good army, that's really good value. So yeah, Poles are definitely up there for me. I can see them being good on a lot of land maps as well. They have some clear weaknesses and they're not like that free compared to some of the other civs, but they're up there. They're pretty solid. I might have to start moving some civs into C tier, by the way. I'm not happy with how B tier is looking like at the moment. We're going to take some time now and actually throw some civs down. I'm going to throw these bottom civs. I'm just going to put them all in C tier, and that makes sense to me. I'm going to even take Koreans down, because I think like Malian needs to be in a tier above Koreans. So that's how it's going to look like for me right now. Sorry, I kind of crammed too much into B tier at first. Got to make some space for Portuguese, which I think might be in either... Yeah, I think it's probably going to be in B tier, just because like organ guns and monks are actually pretty good for some of the closed maps. And then for open maps, you have a lot of different options. Good late game. Cheaper gold units lets you go like crossbow knights super easily in Castlage. I think it's a good civ. I like it. I actually think Drush FC with Portuguese is really good too, by the way. you get cheaper crossbows and cheaper militia. Yeah, it seems like a good strategy, that civ. All right, next up we've got the Saracens. Oh, Saracens got an interesting buff. The Mamluks not dying to scrims is actually really good for 1v1s now, by the way. That was the biggest weakness for Mamluks, is just like you can counter it pretty easily with like skirm arbalest. And like halberdier, if you get up close, is like pretty good. But now if it doesn't have a skirm, it at least takes one weakness away from it. And it's always been a pretty decent unit overall, in my opinion, just expensive. But yeah, like that's a big buff to Mamluks. Also the unique tech, what was the bonus? Like they can get like 150 HP Mamluks in the Castle Age now. I think the zealotry was moved from Imperial Age to Castle Age, so that's a pretty big deal as well. I can see Saracens being a decent civilization, actually. I'm probably gonna put them in B tier somewhere, and probably above Italians and above Cumans. Maybe below Japanese. But I would probably prefer them over Japanese. Like the market bonus combined with like the Mamluks and camels being like a good option now in late Castle Age, combined with the fact that your archers can break through walls easily. I'll probably put them right here behind Berbers. I think that's a pretty good spot for Saracens. It depends on if you like them. If you like them, they're higher up. If you're not a huge fan of them, they're like a bit further behind. I'm gonna put them above Bohemians, actually. Maybe I'm overrating Bohemians a tiny bit, so I'm gonna put them above Bohemians. I'm gonna throw Bohemians a little bit further to the right as well. So kind of how it's looking like right now. Next I got Sicilians. Sicilians gonna be either bottom of B tier or like C tier right now for me. I think they're a decent civilization and they have some good things going for them, but they have only one thing that's like super OP. It's the Holberg, that tech that gives your cavalier extra armor. Combine that with the fact that they don't die to like pikes and halps, it's actually kind of good. That's like the only thing they have. Like they get an extra stone and like a decent boom. They're a bit of an awkward civilization to play. They also kind of hard die to tower rush because dungeons suck and they're too expensive. Ah, gods. I'm gonna put them top of C tier. They're awkward to play, but I'll give it to you. They can feel insane. In some moments, they can feel insane for sure. But I think overall C tier makes sense to me. And I think they feel insane in an unfair way. So like this, they probably need some work. Next up, we got the Slavs. Man, I used to really like Slavs, and in recent times, I'm not a huge fan of it. Probably gonna be a bottom of B tier. Like it's nothing really too crazy going for it, in my opinion. Yeah, it's like pretty meh overall. Next up, we've got, oh no, what civ is this? No, Tatars T. I just put Slavs as Spanish. Is this Spanish? It has to be Spanish, right? It's Spanish, okay. Oh, Spanish? Spanish is a C tier civ, honestly. Probably below Koreans, to be honest. Is it below Persians, though? Because it has conquistadors and nothing else. Like, that's all it does, right? Conquistadors, good monks, and that's it. Stop counting. I'll probably put it above Celts. I think... yeah, I'll probably put it above Celts. Right here makes sense. But I'm up for debate on this one. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, the new civs are not very good for 1v1s. Only hindustan is like really up there. Next up, we got Tatars. And Tatars is probably going to be bottom of A tier. I think the civ is pretty good. Yeah, bottom of A tier makes sense. Maybe above Poles, though, honestly. It's super solid. You have free thumb ring, which is an amazing spike. Amazing late game for Tatars in general. Pretty good early game with your sheep lasting longer. You have a lot of options like archer, scouts. You can do a lot of different things. And on maps like Gold Rush especially, where you have to go all in, or you could go all in, Tatars is like quite solid. So we'll put it up there. Then we have the Teutons. Teutons are really good on maps like Arena. And they're okay on like other maps. They're pretty exploitable. They have bad matchups. I'm gonna put them around below Koreans. I'd prefer Teutons over Persians. Like Teutons has good matchup into Cav civs as well, which is pretty good. I used to underrate Teutons, but I think they're a bit better than I used to think that they are. And I don't mind playing the civ. I think it's okay. Put them right there. Turks, strong light cav. I like that. Strong cav archers, not bad. Decent early mid is like okay. Late is like pretty good, but you have that big weakness of not having elite skirm and not having pikemen, so you're really reliant on your cav line. Kind of susceptible to some camels. I don't know, man. Turks are somewhere in C tier. I just don't know where. Probably above Persians, man. I think above Teutons as well. Probably above Teutons as well. I think Turks are like pretty okay, but I like their style. That's why. Next we have Vietnamese and Vikings to go. So
Vietnamese are crazy, bro. I like Vietnamese a lot. They have cav archers are insane with cav civ, and they have natural skirm and archers against like against archer civs. So I think the civ only really dies like meso civs. So I'm gonna put this super high up, honestly. How about we put them just below Ethiopians? Because they have really strong matchups against a lot of civs. The Rattan archer goes crazy against archer civs. Skirms go crazy against archer civs. Cav archers go crazy against cav civs. And aside from that, you have like a really smooth economy throughout the game. So definitely A tier civ for me. Paper money is kind of whacked. Like the new tech that they have, not paper money, but like the new tech that is it paper money that gives gold and chopped trees. That feels really bad on paper because it feels like you don't really get enough payback fast enough for that tech to be worth it. And then finally, guys, on the list is going to be Vikings. Now, Vikings recently got a nerf. They lost Thumb Ring, or they got a change. They lost Thumb Ring, but like Berserks are like easier to get to and stronger. I probably still think with the handcart economy that Vikings are going to be an A tier, so I'm going to put them pretty high up here, I think. Probably just below, maybe just below Tatars. Yeah, ahead of Poles, but below Tatars. Makes a lot of sense to me. It's a decent civ on a lot of maps, pretty good on like Arabia-style maps. And like I can see it being good on like some open maps as well by just playing defensively. So yeah, that's my tier list, but I'm not really happy with how it looks like right now. So I'm gonna quickly make some changes right now. I'm gonna bump Britons, Franks, and Aztecs to the S tier because I think that these civs are like super solid. And then I'm gonna bump some civs to the bottom, just like my last civs. I'm just gonna put them straight to the bottom here. I really don't. Yeah, yeah, Goth makes sense here. I'm gonna also put some civs to the C tier from here. It's like Portuguese Slavs being C tier. Yeah, I'm okay with those civs being B tier actually. Yeah, I'm okay with that. So this is my final list here, guys. So just to recap, I pushed 3 civs to the D tier: Goths, Dravidians, and burmese. And I'm pretty satisfied with that. Bengalis and Gurjaras just making that C tier because I think that they're okay, but yeah, they need some work. All the new civs need buffs. They have good concepts, but they're just too weak overall. And the top 4 civs, Chinese, Britons, Franks, and Aztecs, in my opinion, these civs feel pretty unfair to play against in certain cases, and are like super easy to play and straightforward. So yeah. But that's my tier list, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is for all land maps, so I tried to give points for civs that, you know, excel in certain maps like, you know, arena and stuff. It obviously had a focus on like open land maps because like those are like the most common land maps, but definitely gave some points for some other strengths as well. So that's my list, guys. I'm pretty happy with it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps out the algorithm or something like that, so it's good. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.